Hello viewers and welcome to another episode of Speechless. I'm your host, Dan Halpern, and today we'll be debating the issues that matter. We cover a wide range of topics from politicians to pop culture. Tonight, we'll be discussing presidential qualifications, a UN ban on weaponized robots, and whether college students should be required to study abroad. Let's get ready for a fierce fight. Ready, set, speechless. Welcome back to Speechless, and let's give a warm welcome to the two teams that will be debating tonight. On this side, we have the Paramount Pegasi with Yale and Elizabeth. Are you guys ready for tonight's debate?
Totally ready.
Awesome.
Dan, we're readier than ever before.
Sounds great. And on the other side, we have the Walker Werewolves with Kate and Siobhan. You guys look like you're ready for tonight's debate. You're matching colors. I see what's going on here.
We are just that in sync, Dan.
We didn't even plan it. We just showed up.
Just happened.
All blue and white. We're ready to go. Team colors. Excited to face off against these fierce opponents.
We'll see how it goes. Well, now we got to go to our judges and introduce them. So we have Josh, Medina, and PT. What are your expectations tonight, guys?
I want details and facts for the arguments.
I want to be persuaded on things that I am not that keen upon.
Donald Trump, killer robots, and studying in France. What's not to like?
That sounds good to me. Well, it's now time to begin our very first debate. There are 3 requirements listed in the U.S. Constitution for presidential candidates. Potential candidates must be born in the United States, they must be at least 35 years of age, and they must have lived in the States for 14 years. This potentially means that anyone could run for president. Despite this, almost all of our former U.S. presidents have had prior political experience. So whether it be through governing or working in legislature, they have had experience. But in this coming election, though, 3 candidates have no prior political experience. So the question is, should a history of political service be necessary to run for president, or should it not? Let's start with the Pegasi.
Well, Dan, we're pretty solid here. The political service, as said in the Constitution, political service is not included in the Constitution. Furthermore, it's almost preposterous to limit the presidency to a very specific small group of people.
Okay.
Furthermore, when you look into it, we've had some truly incredible presidents with very minimal to no political experience. I mean, going back through the years, Abraham Lincoln served 2 years in the House of Representatives before becoming president. You've got Franklin Delano Roosevelt, Theodore Roosevelt, both who were governors of New York for only 2 years before becoming 2 of the most renowned and incredible presidents of our history. All in all, when it comes to the presidency, it's not about your political experience, it's about your leadership ability.
Sounds good, but what do you guys think, Werewolves?
I just wanted to point out that when the Constitution was written, no one had political experience, not like they do today, and so there's really no point in needing it because it wasn't there in the first
I don't
place.
think it's necessary.
No, we do believe it's
You do
necessary.
think
We're
it's
saying when the Constitution was written, no one had political experience, so you can't exactly be like, oh, only people with political experience.
Constitution-
Yeah, the issue
No,
is here,
also,
though.
sorry, to make a point I want to make real quick. You said that you listed presidents who've only had 2 years experience. 2 years is more than 0 years, which is what 3 of these candidates
Thank
have.
you
The
for
issue
the basic
is
math.
that political experience requires a different set of requires that you be often a white man. And so if we want to be more inclusive, if we want to include more people in our presidential elections, we need to have as few requirements as possible. We need to be inclusive as possible. The more requirements we put on the president, the less people that we have.
Nowhere in the
Furthermore-
Constitution does it say you have to be a white man to be president. It
Well,
just
actually,
says-
when
Works
it's
out.
to be fair,
Let's go.
I think this is moving a little bit away from the point, which is that 2 of the candidates are literally, they're doctors, which of course you're smart to be a doctor, but that doesn't mean you have the required set of skills to be a lawmaker. And
Look,
to
that's
go from
excellent to know, but this is not about those 2 candidates.
Okay,
This
but
is
no,
about
to go from no political office to the highest form of political office of one of the most powerful places on the country,
Leader of the free
in the
world.
world. Sorry, I'm
Yeah.
flubbing all over the place. It just doesn't make sense.
It's like putting a kindergartner into a college class and expecting them to do well. They have
Well, okay,
I think
This
we
is
can
not
look
a
at
game,
several
though.
of our lawmakers and say maybe they're not qualified to make laws either.
We're not saying they're
It's
qualified.
It's not a great standard. I mean, if we're looking at
And where do
people
we
who
draw
serve
the line
politically-
furthermore? Once you've got it down there, who do we say? What, can cabinet members do it? That's not legal public service. That's not a legal office.
It's saying you have to be an
Can a school board representative do it? Where do we draw the line furthermore? Who is it to say that we can't trust the American people to make their decision, whether it's a businessman or a former elected representative. If you truly believe in the foundations that the Constitution was made out of, and by the way, it was written in 1787, we had the first governors in the 1760s, that's several years before, and several of the people who were first presidents all had political experience. Furthermore,
yeah.
and many of them,
Well, that's true,
many
but
of them
with the
didn't.
former system, though. I mean,
That was with the former system.
Yeah, and
but-
I'm just going to point out it's not good practice to have someone in the highest form of political office with the nuclear codes
That's
who has
true.
no
Exactly.
experience. They don't have experience on foreign policy. They don't have experience with our domestic policy. They have never had any experience with our legal system.
The issue,
It's
though,
dangerous.
is where do we
It's
draw the line
dangerous.
again? If we have people, you're also the.
This isn't
you're
about
also-
drawing the line.
You're
This
also
is
the,
about-
the leader of the military, but
you're
you
right.
don't need to have military experience.
Exactly.
Obama has no military experience, and yet he's deemed to be
Commander-in-chief,
Furthermore-
a fit commander-in-chief.
Furthermore, when we talk about trusting people to make a
political
choice, you know what, you can
experience, though.
create a constitutional amendment that says, you know what, we're not going to trust the people to vote for who they like. And then we then decide, okay, so we're not going to vote with
You know,
someone for
guys,
experience.
we don't have enough time. This has been really heated. We got to go to our judges. This was a rough debate. What do you guys think? Josh?
This was fiery. Am I on camera? This was
You are.
fiery. I have to give it to the Pegasi. I just think that they were much more methodical with their details and their facts. And I particularly liked what they said about it not being included in the Constitution and not having, not needing military experience to be commander-in-chief. So those were interesting topics.
Yeah, I picked the Pegasi as well because you won me over for the military experience one, as well as I liked the fact that you brought in Lincoln and FDR, and I thought those were great examples.
I like that you guys came at it from a constitutional perspective and also the many historical examples. I have to say you almost lost me with the often a white man thing because people are underrepresented in business and law, and it doesn't really look good in any direction, but in the end I have to give it to the Pegasi.
Thanks, judges. Pegasi, congratulations. You've won the first round. Stick around. Speeches will be right back after this commercial break.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to this season of College Kitchen. I'm your host, Amelia Fabiano.
And I'm Aaron Kenigsberg.
College Kitchen is a show where we're going to take you around Boston to show you all the hottest food spots.
Whether that is man food, which is your burgers, your bacon, your meat, all that grease, yes.
Or like Sweet Talk, where we'll show you sweet tooth lovers where to get your cake fix, your ice cream fix, all that good stuff.
We also have Wild Card, which is your ticket to food from all over the world.
Or if you're on a budget, like I know I am, we'll take you in the kitchen with Alyssa to show you how to make college food on a budget. So sit back
Relax.
and enjoy.
College Kitchen.
Oh, hey guys, it's me, Christian, one of your very own Backyard Boston hosts. I swear there's another one around here somewhere. Maggie! Well, anyway, Boston's a great city to get around in, whether you're walking or taking the T. Holy bejesus!
Hey, Christian, what
Hi,
a great
Maggie.
segue
Oh, no.
into our segment.
Maggie, we talked about this.
Watch us on the Emerson channel where we show
Please
you
don't.
our segue around Boston.
I give up.
And we're back. The United Nations isn't always known for swift action, but the recent delays in negotiations over lethal autonomous robots may have some immediate consequences. These robot soldiers would effectively replace ground soldiers in war zones, changing warfare as we know it. The UN has been debating whether or not to ban such weapons, but talks have been repeatedly stalled by intense negotiations. Is this technology a step toward peace or the road to destruction? Should the UN put a preemptive ban on autonomous robots that could fight in wars?
We're just going to start off with the argument that it keeps our soldiers from being in situations where their lives are threatened. Literally, this is a way to be able to take the military action that our country may feel it needs to take without actively risking the lives of soldiers. You're risking machines, not human lives. And though these machines would be expensive and whatever, it's nothing costs more than a human life.
You're saving people's husbands, wives, sons, and daughters from ever having to not come home again.
And also, we'd just like to point out that none of these drones, even if they're or robots or really unmanned, they are actively controlled by people. So it's not like you're just sending in a pre-programmed
Actually, that's
thing.
far too blanket a statement. We don't know that for sure. This is autonomous robots. These are robots that would technically be automatic. We don't know what
But
can
that's
necessarily.
While they're automatic, that
Hashtag-
doesn't mean that they're unmanned.
Let's be
Hashtag not
clear.
all robots. Not all robots are going to be.
You're right, but
autonomous.
this is about preventing horrible possible things from happening in the future. We've had now machines used in the public spotlight for the last 5 years extremely. Throughout the Obama administration, we've seen such a huge surge in drone strikes, which, by the way, according to, I believe this is Amnesty International, anywhere between 400 and 1,000 civilians have died because of these drones throughout the last couple of years. Drones don't know the difference between civilians and enemies.
Yeah. However,
Furthermore, if we use drones and if we use robots, it's an attempt to circumnavigate the Constitution. Congress has the right to declare war, and Congress has the right to decide when troops are on the ground. If we use autonomous robots, the president could declare we send these drones, we send these robots without the approval of Congress. We're circumnavigating.
Nowhere in this
the
debate are we saying that
we're talking
we're
about the
trying to
future.
circumnavigate
That's not-
Congress.
that's-
What we're
that's-
talking about
that's
is
robots.
robots.
That's what these
Elizabeth,
robots
that's not-
allow.
Elizabeth, you're going
that's not-
completely off track
that's
of
not
what we're
the
trying to
But
get at
I'm
here.
saying that it
And-
allows for this circumstance to exist.
We're
And
not-
when-
We're not
We're not
saying we're trying to
discussing that.
circumnavigate Congress. We're trying to save lives. We're trying to
No,
make sure
also-
that people
also, I'm
come
sorry.
home.
What we're
We've
saying
all-
is this
we're all
isn't
not
saving
even
lives.
saying-
This is actually, human life is one of the most important parts of warfare. When you get into a battlefield, fear, instinct, and restraint are that's what makes humans.
Yeah, but,
and when
but
we get
if-
into a
no,
battlefield,
if
a robot
if
cannot
a robot
decide.
is being actively controlled by a human on the battlefield.
There is a
then-
difference
This is already
between sitting in
happening.
a sitting in a
There is a
warehouse in
difference, I agree.
Kentucky and not pulling the trigger
okay,
than
and
being
I'm
there.
sorry, on this topic, we're not arguing against the ban. We're all for restriction and for strict regulations of these, but we're saying you should not have a blanket ban on them from being in the workplace because these, in the end of the day,
Perhaps.
use of these can
But let's
save
talk
lives
about who
if
we're fighting.
regulated.
Let's talk about who we're fighting. The United States is an extremely rich country, and the people we're fighting are often in third world countries or other countries where their technology does not come near matching us. And when that comes to warfare, that means we have machine against man.
Okay.
And that means we have an ultimate slaughter on a battlefield.
But the other question is, the UN is trying to decide this. Is the UN justified in they're deciding this, or should the U.S. step in? Or,
Of course,
why
the
is
UN's
UN
job
doing
is to prevent war crimes, and
But
we've had
there's-
so many
And
war
we're not-
crimes in the
and
past.
we're not arguing that it isn't the UN's job. I'm sorry. We're just saying that they shouldn't go for an all-out ban. They should just have strict regulations and codes that countries should have.
As
These
we've
machines
known-
can help us. We're not trying to just be like,
As we've seen in the past, strict UN regulation does next to nothing. A UN ban is about the only way to do anything. And even with the UN ban, there needs to be a blanket statement saying that we can't trust this technology to replace
But it
man
does
in the
But
place
who's
of
going to
battle.
enforce
does
this
save
stuff?
lives.
Who's going to
It's
enforce
the classic argument: guns don't kill people, people kill people.
But now robots
the thing
will
is,
kill
But when
we
you
have-
put
we
guns in
have
the
guys-
hands of
these
someone,
intense
We are out of
aut-
time. I am so sorry. I have to cut you off. We got to go to our judges. Robots or no robots? What did you guys think?
This was a really interesting topic, and I wish I would have been able to hear more facets of the issue. The question that came to mind is human casualty affects, sort of how war progresses and when it stops and where it stops. And so my question is, what happens when we remove that from the equation? And so I'd have to give it to the Pegasi.
It was a very equal thing for me, but I really enjoyed how the Pegasi brought up its difference between enemy and civil. There's like no difference between them in a way for the robots, and how it's ultimate slaughter at the end. So that's why I picked Pegasi.
I completely disagree with my colleagues. I thought that your points were weak because you didn't manage to make a distinction between how much worse drones would be than people, given how much we know that people, when they're put in the battlefield, can become heartless killing machines. I feel that you didn't address that point, and I also don't see how in regards to declaring war, a drone is any different as a tool from a gun. So I
Well,
have
we'll
to give it
talk,
to the
PT.
werewolves.
We'll talk.
Wow, this was certainly a very, very close debate, but we got to give it the Pegasi. Congratulations, you've won the second debate. But don't let a robot change the channel, because Speechless will be right back.
Have you had a rough night? We've all been there. And we know where you're going. Backyard Boston.
For today's society in the United States, a bachelor's degree at the very least is practically mandatory in order for people to obtain job security. We also live in an increasingly global society with new technologies that have given us the opportunity to observe and sometimes immerse ourselves into new cultures. Most colleges, in order to promote learning about different cultures, have study abroad programs. Knowing this, should a semester abroad become a requirement in order to obtain a bachelor's degree in America?
The world is constantly becoming smaller and smaller, and America retains its stance as one of the least global countries in the world. We still have students graduating from college who've never left their home state, let alone country. I mean, study abroad programs allow students the chance to be immersed in a different world. I mean, students who go to study abroad, they usually get better jobs. They usually get more promotions. Oftentimes, the government's looking for students who've had study abroad experience. Study abroad programs in general make better students. The other thing is there's a lot of scholarships and grant programs out there, and with the implementation of a mandatory study abroad program, I'd like to see an implementation of scholarships and grants that make that possible for all students as well.
I'm going to jump in on the subject of scholarships and grants. Study abroad is so expensive, and I'm not arguing that it isn't a wonderful thing and it's not a wonderful learning tool, but if it was required, we can't guarantee that the scholarships and grants would be enough, because right now for studying at home, it's not enough. There are people who are barely scraping by even with their scholarship money, even with their grant money. Like, there are people who are just never going to have enough money to do that, and it's so unfair to make an experience that's already so expensive even more expensive, especially for people who just can't do it.
I'm going to have to disagree with you there, because the University of Edinburgh, full price for that's in Scotland, for an international student to go is $25,000. That's without any grants, without any scholarships that you might earn. That's for an international student. Emerson College, if you weren't to get any grants, is $60,000, including room and board.
But look at the students who are working their way through college. If they study abroad for a year, when they come back, will their jobs still be there? Will they be able to say, oh, I can leave and then come back and know that I can be financially stable?
Also, I'm sorry, in addition to this, an argument about the University of Edinburgh cost versus the cost of Emerson is kind of irrelevant, because if we're talking about all colleges on a nationwide scale, not every college is $60K like Emerson. Like, there are some colleges that are down to that.
But there are also entire countries where there is free tuition, including for international students.
But we don't have that here.
I'm not saying we do. I'm saying we have exchange programs that actually will legally match.
Are you saying that?
Excuse me, I'd like to finish this point. I'm saying they will match the price of other schools. Otherwise, we're not actually talking about making a mandatory thing without adjusting prices here. I'm talking about making a mandate for all students to study abroad, and by doing so, going to schools and going to programs that will match the price of home schools, which, by the way, countless schools will do. In Germany, nearly every single student will get a free education. In Sweden, every single student will get a free education.
But we're not offered that free education.
We're not offered that, but international students
there.
often get under $10,000 a semester for many of those programs, which is extremely comparable to many community colleges and extremely comparable when compared to this school.
Well, who do you guys think should be footing the bill for this? Should the schools be, taking the expense
that's
here?
a question, because we all know funding becomes a very tricky issue because nobody ever wants to pay up. Secondly, on your point of Germany and like all those other European countries that offer free tuition, are they expected to take every single American student in a bachelor's program? Are they expected to foot the bill for every?
We're not asking.
It's incredibly beneficial for them.
It may be beneficial, but we can't afford to do it.
They're getting well-educated.
Where is this money going to come from?
We can't afford to pay. B, how are they going to afford to not only offer
They're
free
going to
tuition
afford
to all
it by
their
the same
students?
way
Excuse
that
me, I'd
students
like to finish my point. they can afford to offer all of these international students, an entire nation of students getting their bachelor's degrees, by the way, if this is mandatory. They can't afford to give it to both their students
We
and our
haven't
students.
discussed
And the
necessarily any other things about it. What we're discussing is not about the prices. It's not about anything else. What we're discussing is it going to be beneficial? Is this something
No,
we
that's
need
not
to
what
look
we're
at?
discussing. We're
We're
discussing should it be
discussing-
mandatory, and
Look
price
at
is
students.
a
No, I
factor in that.
completely agree. Should it be mandatory? We've not said whether it should be a semester, whether it should be a year, whether it should even be a month or 3 weeks.
That's not. No, that's
No,
not.
we
the
actually
question.
have not said a semester. We've said study abroad
No.
programs. What I'm talking about
So
here.
what are we doing? Studying abroad
No,
for the
no,
next
the
4
question-
years? Why
Are
don't we
we gonna
just
study
go to
abroad,
college
guys,
over
or
there?
what?
talking
I'm
about-
sorry. I'm sorry, Gail. You're incorrect. The question is whether a semester abroad is necessary.
We
In
s- you're
or
correct. To get a
not
bachelor's
necessary,
degree.
but should it be mandatory? And the answer is no, because it's like
The answer is
not
not
every
no.
student in
When
the
we
country-
can create better
not-
students and a more global society.
Not every student in the country can do it, though.
You know
if
what?
somebody's working their way through college,
And if
can
bachelor's
they guarantee
degrees
their
are going to be
minimum
the
wage
new
job is
standard,
gonna be-
if bachelor's degrees
Alright,
are going to be the new standard of excellence, then shouldn't there be a higher
You
bar?
know, this
But
is getting
can a
way too intense, guys. We have to talk about this
And not
later.
every
We got, hold on,
student
hold on.
wants to go.
I am so sorry. We have to go to our judges. Should we study abroad? Should it be mandatory?
Oh my
What did you guys think of what they
goodness!
said?
You know, it's been really hard to judge this show because I feel like there are points that I almost want to be made but haven't quite been able to get out. I haven't ever studied abroad and I wish I could. Expense has been part of it. I'd have to go with the Pegasi. There are points that I wish were made but they weren't. But you guys sort of touched on them in the beginning and toward the end, and so I could see it there, and so I'd have to give it to the Pegasi.
It was completely even for me. Like I didn't know who to pick until when you just said if the bachelor's degree is going to be the new standard, then why can't we make something like that the new standard? Something along those lines. But yeah, so I guess I picked Pegasi.
I picked literally a second ago. That's
me too.
I am going to have to go with the Pegasi. I felt that you guys just had more solid points. It was very, very even, but you guys got me just a little bit with that last line about the new standard of excellence, and with the whole globalization argument. So, good job, guys.
Thank you, judges. And Paramount Pegasi, congratulations. You've won the 3rd round. And congratulations, you've also won the entire show tonight. But thank you all for being here. That's all for tonight. We'll see you next week on Speechless.